Good morning and happy Tuesday, 10 at 10. I am your host, Richard Charpentier, a certified master baker, bakery scientist with over 34 years of bakery experience, here to help you with your questions. So every Tuesday, we get questions that are being sent through Bakerpedia, and then we treat the questions here in the 10-minute segment. So let's get started. So the first question is somebody asking about Poolish and sponge and dough system. Are they the same? Please explain. So a Poolish is technically a way of fermentation that's using a 1-to-1 ratio of water to flour. So meaning you're hydrating 100%. As a sponge, you're hydrating very similar, from 55, I've seen, all the way to 65% water absorption based on baker's percent. And one is basically making a slurry, and the slurry is being made with the yeast. It's being fermented there. And once you'll see everything is increasing, and it's gonna, similar to a sponge, do a bubble, and then it starts being concave, is when the gluten structure basically ruptures, cannot just grow anymore. And that's when I was taught that's when the Poolish is ready. As a sponge and dough, it's similar as well. And it's all about, once you press the sponge, it collapses. On average, people would use 30% of the flour for the Poolish, and for the sponge, it can be used up to 60%, but it's all depending on how much water you use. Because keep in mind that your total formula you're using either on the Poolish and sponge system has to be counted for. So for example, if your original formula is asking for 100 pounds of flour, and you take 30 pounds of flour, and you take 30 pounds of water in the Poolish, you have to deduct it and add it back at the end, so you're not using too much flour. Similar with the sponge and dough. So both systems are very advantageous to create a better flavor, because through pre-fermenting your flour with water, you will create more lactic and propionic acids, so you'll develop more of an aroma that is fermented aroma. You will get a better crumb as well. You would get a better texture, and also it can help with extended shelf life to a certain degree. And again, that has to be determined. I'm not saying it will, meaning it has an advantage of doing it. So, but like bread baking, when you start doing Poolish or you start doing a sponge and dough, both of those systems would require monitoring and control. You can't just think it's like that and accept the same result. So it requires understanding how fast it goes. Again, a Poolish can be done in about 3 up to maybe 12 hours if you use very little yeast and within a control environment. And the longer you ferment, the more sour notes and the more acids and volatile and organic acid you would produce, and therefore changing everything. But that's an excellent question, and thank you for sending it. So now for next question, someone wants to know about, could you please help me on how much potassium sorbate add to cakes, how much and when to add? And they're giving us a formula, which is a standard formula for cakes. So before thinking of should we add potassium sorbate into my cake, I always question you, the bakers, to be, hey, why am I adding potassium sorbate? Why do you need to add? And what is potassium sorbate? So potassium sorbate is a salt version of sorbic. Once you put your potassium sorbate into, it will dissociate, and bring you sorbic acid, which would lower the pH to a certain degree and therefore help with mold growth. But it has to do also based on a pKa that you're using, and the pKa is the right, let's say, the right level at which the potential acid, whether lactic or sorbic or propionic acid you're using, in which acid format it's going to work best. So I don't know that for your cake. So before to say how much to add, we'll need to know what's the acidity of your cake, what's the intended shelf life of your cake, what's the packaging of your cake, and what's the water activity of your cake, what's the moisture of your cake, and then we come back and we determine how much to add. Adding without doing the proper product development is basically, you might be wasting your product. What product development is about: building the proper efficiency and the proper consistency and the quality of your products in and day out. And I wish I could just say, just put that and it's done. But it's similar to, as an analogy, to going to the doctor. If a friend of yours is taking a pill, the doctor says take one a day, and you're going to ask your friend, how much should I take? You have to go see a doctor too. And I hope you get the story and the analogy of why I'm trying to do that. But it's based on, again, potassium sorbate is great. It functions well, but it's, again, the requirements of where is your pH, where is your water activity, where's your moisture, what shelf life do you intend on getting, and also last is what packaging, because then we can determine what best to use. But hey, good luck on that, and thank you for sending the question. Now on the next question, kindly assist me in determining application range of CMC when formulating flour correctors or when used separately at the bakery level. So good question. But again, I've never used CMC as a flour corrector. Carboxymethyl cellulose is used basically to bind certain amount of water. Not sure what products you're making. And to add other points to what you're asking, there are different grades of CMC. You have different mesh size and you have different functionality for CMC. For a question like that, I would recommend, if you're reading things about correction of flour, and I'm not sure why you have a flour that needs to be corrected with CMC, and is this, a lot of damaged flour or a lot of, lower quality flour, why you would need to do that. But I would go back to the manufacturer of CMC and say, what do you recommend? It's not something I've experienced in using CMC as a flour corrector. Usually, again, a flour, and again, I don't know if it's a cake, I don't know if it's a bread, if it's a flatbread or what, and cracker, we don't know what end product you're trying to manufacture and why you're trying to use CMC as a flour corrector. But thank you for sending the question, and sorry I couldn't get a little deeper into that. So, and now we have our last question. Why is my bread underproofing? Well, it could be a multitude reasons why your bread is not proofing. The first and most obvious is, how's your yeast? Is your yeast alive? Are you using a fresh yeast? And I'll give you just a quick hint on yeast and shelf life. If you're using dry instant yeast in those vacuum sealed packets, just check that the shelf life is typically 5 to 7 days. The reason why it's vacuum sealed is because those instant yeast will react to the oxygen. That means what we're breathing around us. And if you leave the packages out like that, the efficiency or the potency of your yeast will start decreasing. So that's one aspect. Are you using the right flour? Do you have the right temperature? Are you mixing enough? But if nothing moves, that means your yeast. That's a most obvious one. But if you're getting some movement and very little, it could also be that the environment that you have for your yeast, it's not the right environment. And what do I mean by not the right environment? Yeast thrive on heat and the right pH at the beginning. So if you have something that is either too alkaline, meaning a pH way above 7 and a 9 and 10, the yeast are not going to thrive in that environment. Or if you have a water or you're adding vinegar and it's too acidic, the yeast won't thrive. If you have an environment that is too high in salt or too high in sugar, that will create saturation, and therefore the yeast will not be able to thrive. You have to think of the yeast as a living organism. And why it's not, are you properly hydrating? There are so many factors that could contribute to why your bread is not proofing correctly and why you can do that. So I'd love to help you more. If you're interested, you can always go to the Bakerpedia page on bakery resources and look for consultant. At least you get a 30-minute or an hour one-on-one, just to guide you with myself or other great consultants with expertise. And then you get the help you deserve. So in order to, get your product moving. And remember, we're here to help. We're here to help you grow. And sometimes when you have issues, a lot of people are very particular. They're like, oh, I don't want to change. But the key is, look at the efficiency and the products you waste all the time. Think about ways to solve those issues, because a good running bakery is a bakery running great efficiency and great selling products and great rotation, etc., where you have a formula that works and you understand and you can control the environment in which you have. So on those notes, so thank you very much for watching Tuesday 10 at 10. I'm your host, Richard Charpentier. And please send questions, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.